This video is exactly what I would have shown my younger self if I could. It's the lessons and pieces of wisdom that would have severely altered where I am right now. And I'm sharing it all with all of you for free. So make sure to watch it full. If you were to stop scrolling, you could become more focused and disciplined. Sadly, you most likely suck at not scrolling. No offense here. And that is why I've got some good news and some bad news for you. The good news is that I discovered a method that I personally used to reduce my screen time on my phone from 6 to 8 hours a day to under 30 minutes. I'll attach a screenshot here. Sadly, the bad news is that without this video, you'll continue watching 10-20 other videos like this, which will have no such substance in them, and you'll continue to scroll and procrastinate and never be able to focus on your goals. So the first thing that you need to do is delete YouTube, go on monk mode, wake up at 4 a.m., take some cold shower, and boom. No, I'm not gonna say that, don't worry. If it were that simple, you wouldn't be watching this video, right? I'm joking, don't worry. So I won't be saying such things because I know you guys have a corollary due to which you use social media. Like for example, you could be using Instagram to talk to your friends, but when you try to do that, you end up scrolling. Another example would be you could be using YouTube to learn things, like for example this video, but at the same time you might end up doom scrolling degenerate content. Alright, so there is a corollary behind using any social media platform, and I think that is where the problem comes, because if it didn't exist, then you could just simply delete it and never really feel the need to download it. But since we have got actual good uses, like YouTube is very good for learning things, but at the same time it's full of degenerate stuff. So because of this corollary that exists, it's very hard to like completely cut it out of our everyday, and that is why you get in that rabbit hole. So simply deleting anything wouldn't solve nothing. Instead, here is what you need to do. Firstly, you need to sit with yourself alone in a room and ask, why are you doing this? What you need to do is you need to write down, why do you want to stop scrolling? You need to write down why you want to stop scrolling and ask why 5 times until you get to the root reason behind why you want to stop scrolling. Alright, so for example, I could want to stop scrolling because it wastes a lot of my time. So I'll give you an example as to how I would go about it so that you can do it yourself. I want to stop scrolling because I want to focus more on my goals. Well, why do I want to focus more on my goals? So that I can become successful. Well, why do I want to become successful? Because I don't want to have a mediocre life. But I want a mediocre life because I don't like mediocrity. I don't like average. Why don't I like that? Because living a very average life brings pain and suffering. So you can go about this and you can use pen, paper, Google Docs, whatever you prefer to do this. And what you'll notice is that you'll come across the most fundamental reason once you ask 5 times. You can do more, but I would not recommend doing less, because 5 times is like the sweet spot. If you do it 5 times, you're going to get to the root reason behind why you want to do it, and then you are going to craft a statement like this. So the example that I gave you is that I want to stop scrolling because I want to focus more on my goals and I want to become more successful so that I don't have to become mediocre or whatever. So this is how I would phrase it. Alright, so my reason would be I want to stop scrolling because I want to focus on my goals, and if I don't do it, then I'll continue scrolling, and that will take my life towards mediocrity, and I absolutely hate mediocrity. Right, so once you come up with the list of the 5 questions that you answer, you need to create all of that together. You need to mix it together and craft a statement like this. Like for example, as I said, in my case, I want to stop scrolling because I want to become more successful. I want to focus more on my goals because I absolutely hate mediocrity, and not doing so would make my life mediocre. So the thing is, the reason why you have to do this is because you get a very strong why, and he who has a why can bear any how. If it were about some blocking app or some technique that you could use, then everyone would be able to do it. But that's not what happens. Most people struggle with it, and that is simply because people don't have a strong enough reason. Friedrich Nietzsche said, he who has a why can bear any how. And yeah, I'm not saying that you don't need strategies or techniques or whatever. You do need them, but you need to combine that with a strong enough reason, because your brain does not like change. Your brain is going to resist that change, and to force your brain to accept that change, you will have to give it a strong enough reason. So once you're done with that, what you need to do is delete all the applications that you use just for the sole purpose of entertainment. Alright, now I'm not telling you to delete it forever. I'll be teaching you the exact thing what you need to do. But what you need to do is delete the applications that you just use for entertainment. For example, TikTok. I don't think there's a productive use for TikTok unless until you make money, and it's most likely also banned. So TikTok. Then you could also have Twitter or X. I don't think there's a very productive use for that unless again you make money. There is a corollary for YouTube and Instagram, because Instagram most people use for communicating with their friends, and YouTube is you use that for learning, but at the same time you have the problem of scrolling. So these 2-3 platforms are there that you could have a corollary for, but in most cases, like for example TikTok or Twitter or Reddit, for that matter. Some people do use Reddit productively, but that is a very, very small proportion of people. Most people don't use it for that. So you need to decide and delete accordingly. So just delete everything that you don't have a productive reason to use for. Now, the keyword here is productive, because you could be like, I'm not saying you just need to have a productive reason. Even if you have a product, you could have a productive reason and as well as have the problem of scrolling. That is fine. But if you just need to have a productive reason to use that application, if you don't have any productive reason and you just use it for the sake of using it, then just delete that. That application has to go. Then what you need to do is track your time. You can use a free application that I personally use as well. It's called Stay Free. I'll link it in the description. It's absolutely free, and this application basically tracks the application that you'll use on your phone, like to the minute, to the exact minute. It will tell you what have you used, how much of have it used, how many times have you opened it, and everything. And the thing is, if you don't track it, you'll never be able to know it. If you don't know your enemy, you cannot destroy it. You cannot destroy an enemy you're not aware of. So the first fundamental step to destruction is awareness. So you need to firstly know exactly how much time you're spending, and then you need to measure it. I'll recommend using something like Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel or whatever you prefer to write it down. You can also use pen and paper, but the thing with pen and paper is that it might get lost or something. So, but it's completely your choice. I prefer to do things a bit digitally. A prime reason being my handwriting is very bad. I don't like seeing that, but you would do it with pen and paper. It's absolutely fine. Just make sure that you don't lose it away, and you have like a record of it, so that you can look at it every day and like actually keep a track of it. By the way, the video is not sponsored by Stay Free or something or anything like that, and it's not an affiliate link as well. It's just that I personally use it. It's completely free, and it doesn't even have any intrusive ads or anything like that. It's a very good application. You can just use it. All right. And then what I'll suggest, in fact, I recommend, in fact, is that to delete all the applications that you also do have a productive reason to use for 7 days. The keyword here is 7 days. You need to delete them, but only for 7 days. If you are going to tell your brain that you're going to delete it every time, your brain is not going to believe, and it will not want to do it. So what you need to instead do is delete that application for 7 days. Now, there might be some issues that you might be thinking, and I'll later address them in this video. But firstly, what you need to do is just delete all the applications that you also have a productive reason for 7 days. The reason I told 7 days is because it's like sweet spot. You could pick 10, 20, 30, whatever you want, but I will not recommend going very big, because especially if you have very high screen time, something like above 4 or 5 hours, something like that, then directly like deleting those applications will be like very difficult. So I'll just recommend a small enough time frame, something like 7 days. 7 days is not like very big, nor is it very small. So it's like a sweet spot, and it's also the number that I personally use while doing it myself. The reason behind doing this is that once you try to do things that your current self is not accustomed to doing, like for example, if you are just going to stop using Instagram or YouTube and stop scrolling on your phone 5 to 6 hours a day, if you used to do before, then the identity, the existence of your current self is going to be threatened. Alright, now this is a very deep enough concept that I learned from studying Carl Jung, and I'll make a dedicated video on this. This demands a very big video. But basically, the self that you have right now, that is going to try to sabotage. The reason it'll try to sabotage is because that is who it is. If you stop doing things that it used to do, then the identity, the existence of that current self that you have right now is threatened. And that is why it'll try to make you, distract you. It'll try to force you to use that application again. And if you try to do it for very long without proper technique and strategy, then you are going to lose the war, right? So you cannot do that. And that is why I recommend doing it for 7 days. Then one thing that you need to do is have a fixed time as well as a time frame that you like have every day for scrolling. Like for example, you could have a time from 4 to 5 p.m. every day to scroll. Alright, so the time is 4 p.m. and the time frame is 60 minutes. Alright, now I personally started with 60 minutes because I had a screen time of about 6 to 8 hours and it worked for me. But it might be that it might happen that it does not work for you, so you might have to increase it. 60 minutes I do feel is like the sweet spot. If you go below this, like 30-20 minutes, which I tried doing honestly, but it didn't really work because I used to go beyond that limit and not track it because I didn't want to accept the fact that I crossed my limits. And it will inevitably happen that you sometimes even cross the 60-minute mark. I also used to do it sometimes. But don't feel bad because you have tracked it and you're doing something. So it's not something to be felt. It is part of the process. You're going to fail, and with failure, eventually you will be able to keep it under 60 minutes. Now, I will not give you a fixed time duration or a fixed time that you need to have. But one thing that I'll say is that keep a time which is later in the afternoon or like somewhere around that, later in the evening. The reason behind that is I don't think you would want to scroll after you wake up first thing in the morning, because I think that is a problem why you have clicked on this video. There's something that you want to stop. So that is have a time in the afternoon or evening where you just scroll, you allow yourself to scroll, and also fix a time duration that you will allow yourself to scroll for this X amount of period from X to X without feeling bad. Now, one thing that I would like to mention is that you need to fix a time as well as a time duration. Basically, what you need to do is think, have a plan as to I'm going to spend 1 hour scrolling at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Alright, now why timing is important, I'll talk about later in the video. There's something that you need to do that has to do with timing, but even more important is the time frame. You need to have a time frame. You have to give yourself allowed time frame. Now, time frame is compulsory, time is not. What that means is that you don't necessarily need to decide that I will use at 4 or 5, but however you need to have a limit in your mind, and why I say that you'll know later in the video. Then what you need to do is replace that activity that you used to do with something that is not as bad, but it is equally as stimulating. So for me, that was, I used to scroll on Instagram and YouTube, right? So what I did was I replaced that with scrolling on Quora or Medium. I mostly started using Quora because it was a lot better than Instagram. Now of course scrolling on that is also bad, but it is, if you compare to scrolling on Instagram for 6 hours a day, and then compared to that, scrolling on Quora for 60 minutes a day, it does not seem that bad, right? So, and you are not going to go from scrolling 6 hours a day to directly reading for 6 hours a day every day. You have to make like gradual improvements. And what I personally did was I replaced my scrolling on Instagram with scrolling on Quora. And on Quora, you basically have to put effort into the thing, and it's not like hyper stimulating as you see on Instagram, where you don't have to do anything and it's just like entertaining content. Quora, you like get very, very good and deep things like psychology, philosophy, and books and everything, stuff like that. And same goes for Medium. So you need to find that something for you. It could be anything, doesn't have to be Quora or Medium. It could be music, it could be exercise, it could be skipping, it could be listening songs, it could be anything, but it has to be something that you genuinely enjoy, and it has to be something that you can replace that activity with. And as I said earlier, now that's not a very healthy alternative. As I said, scrolling on Quora is not a very good thing, great thing to do. And similarly, even if you do something else, like for example, if you replace your Instagram scrolling with, let's say, listening to music. So listening to music is fine, but if you just listen to music 6 hours a day, it's not very conducive for your future and success, right? But it is still a lot better than scrolling on Instagram and frying your dopamine receptors of the brain, right? So it is a healthier alternative, and it is a point from where you can improve further. And as I said, Quora and Medium, these were my personal examples. You could replace them with anything. You could play video games, you could listen to music, you could sing songs, you could cook food, whatever you like to do. It has to be very, very enjoyable, and it has to be something that you like genuinely really enjoy. Alright, it cannot be something that you want to accomplish. What you want to accomplish, we are going to do that as well. That is what I'll be talking about next. But before that, you need to do this as well, because without this you won't be able to do that. Then once you do that, so I would like to firstly repeat what you need to do. Firstly, delete all the apps that you have that you just use for the sake of entertainment. Alright. Then secondly, what you need to do is for 7 days delete all the apps which you use, even if you have a productive reason to use them. Alright. And for those 7 days, replace that activity with this another activity that you have found. It could be playing games, it could be listening to music, it could be exercising, it could be singing songs, it could be anything. It could be anything that you genuinely, passionately enjoy doing. Alright. And then from the 8th day onwards, what you need to do is, just before you start to do this stimulating activity that you have, you are going to do the thing that you want to do, that is a part of a goal. Alright. Now, goal setting and everything is something that we'll talk about in some other video, but basically you need to decide something that you want to do. For example, it could be reading books, it could be going to gym, it could be, let's say, working on your goals, it could be anything like that. Alright. And stuff like this is what you're going to do just before you start to do the stimulating thing that you do. The reason why I told you to have a fixed time is because it is going to be helpful here. Because let's say you are going to scroll, let's say you're going to listen to music from 4 to 5. Alright. So you could tell yourself, okay, so I'm going to read just before I start scrolling. Read for 5 minutes, so you could start reading from 3:50, and after 5-10 minutes of reading, you could start scrolling or listening to music, whatever you have chosen to do. Alright. So that is why it is helpful. However, it is not really compulsory. You could just be like, okay, before I start, I'm going to just read, and just read for 5 minutes. Now, yes, of course, having a time does help, and I would recommend having a time. But I understand you might have school or work or whatever, college or whatever. But even just a time frame will work. But make sure that you do it before you start doing that activity. Otherwise, you are not going to do it after you're done, because you will not have an incentive. Whereas if you like read before, I'll just take the example of reading, alright. So if you just read 5 minutes before you start, let's say, listening to music, then listening to music will be seen as your brain as a reward that you're going to get for doing that painful activity. Reading is going to be painful for you initially if you're not doing it, alright, because it is not something that is accustomed to your current self. It is something that you want to build into yourself. Now, I will be very honest, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is going to be very difficult in the beginning. It is really simple, it is not complicated, but it is going to be very, very difficult, because you will feel immense resistance, and I already explained you why. Your current self is going to sabotage you. Your current self will try everything in its power to make you not do that thing, because it is not something that it does. It is not something that is part of its nature. You're going to do something that it does not do. So it is threatened, its identity, its existence is threatened. Now, once you do this for quite some time, the good habit that you are trying to build here, the habit that you're doing for 5 to 10 minutes, that will eventually start becoming rewarding, alright? It will not happen in a day, it will not happen in a week, it will not even happen in a month. But after 6 to 8 to 12 months, you will start to enjoy that good habit, and you will start to see that scrolling on phone or whatever habit you have chosen as bad, and you will genuinely not want to do it. Like, if I were to give my example, I started by reading 15 pages a day. Just before I used to scroll on Quora or whatever, or listen to music, I used to read 15 pages a day. And once I used to do that, I used to reward myself with the scroll time. Alright, that's what I used to call it. And after 3-4 months of doing that, I started reading 25 pages a day, and I did that for a year, and I read about 30 books, I guess. And that was the point where I genuinely just completely disliked scrolling or listening to music for that long or whatever. I still listen to music, I'm not saying I don't listen to music, but like for 5-6 hours it's very weird, right? So I started reading 1 hour a day after that, and reading itself became a pleasurable activity to me instead of something that I need a reward for, alright? And this just takes time. Eventually your self will adapt, but you have to give it time. That is the only thing here, alright? And the reason why I keep coming back to scrolling or whatever is that after the 7 days mark, it might happen that you might regress back into your old ways of scrolling or whatever, but it will not make a difference. What you just need to do is be true with the thing that you are going to scroll on that particular fixed time and for that time frame. If you don't have a time, it is not a problem, but if you decide to have a time, then it will make it like 2 to 3 times easier, and that is why I'll recommend having a time, and time frame is compulsory. So just have this, and even if you go back and regress back into your old habits of scrolling on Instagram or whatever, it will not be a very big problem for you, alright? Now in my case, as I said earlier, when I used to read 15 pages a day, there were many days that I didn't read. There were many days that I crossed 60 minutes. There were many days that I used to scroll for 120 minutes. But slowly, eventually I started to like reading, and I started to read things that really opened my brain, and it's not just for reading, it is for anything that you will want to do. You will eventually start liking it, and anything that is not that, you'll start to see it as time waste. And that is what happened. I didn't need that reward anymore. I felt as if I'm wasting my time. I could be here reading so many interesting things, in expanding my knowledge. Why do I have to waste my time, right? So something like that will happen, and for me it took 1 year. I don't know how long it is going. I cannot say for sure how long it will take for you, but it will not something that is going to happen in the span of like 1 week or 1 month. Give it at least 6 to 12 months for some result to happen. And that is basically how I did it, alright? Now, I'll answer a few questions that you might be having. And the first question that I felt you might have is that what if we are not able to uninstall YouTube or Instagram or any other platform that you use, just like you were able to? What if we have some very important work, or what if we have too many friends we need to talk to, or something like that? See, in most cases, I'm not asking you to uninstall YouTube or Instagram or any application that you have a corollary use for permanently. I just ask you to uninstall it for 7 days. And I'll be very honest, if it disappears for 7 days online, no one really cares. No one really cares that much about you. And even I used to feel that, okay, what if I disappear? I'm going to miss out on so many things, but really doesn't really matter. Even if you have a lot of friends, you are hardly going to get 1 or 2 messages, and I learned it the hard way. So it is not really a problem, alright? It is just your current self trying to sabotage you in a form. And as I already answered, what if you slip into your old ways of scrolling after the 7 days? Well, it's not really a problem, but if you feel that you are going very, very extreme and you're like wasting a lot of time, then what you can do, you can repeat the same thing on a longer time horizon. You can increase the 7 days to 10 days. You can increase that 10 days to 20 days. Right? Keep doing it. But if you do it properly in the first initial 7 days, it should not really be a problem. It was not really a problem for me where I just went back to 6 to 8 hours. I used to reach 2 or 3 hours a few days, and that will happen. It's not really a problem. It's part of the process. All right, it will happen. Don't need to get worried. But yeah, if you see yourself crossing that 6 to 8 mark or hitting that 6 to 8 mark, just like your completely previous thing, and doing it again and again, then you need to redo the 7 days thing on a longer time horizon, and it will work eventually. Now, since you watched till here, you're in the top 5% of the people who have clicked on this video. So here's a little thank you gift for you. I know you might be thinking that it still feels hard, and I know it is, and that is why, to help you out, I have created my own personal, absolutely free newsletter where I send 3 to 5 detailed, in-depth guides per week, and I also answer your questions, whatever you might be having. And since 95% of the people have already left this video, you have an unfair advantage. And let's be honest, we both know that unfair advantages are how you really win. So make sure to use it. You can join from the first link in the description. With that being said, I'll see you soon. If you could simply outwork everybody else, you would be more successful and your life would be more fun than anyone else's. Pretty simple, right? Sadly, you most likely aren't able to do that. No offense here. So I got some good news and some bad news for you. The good news is that I came up with a solution that will allow you to outwork everyone else and make your work fun again. And it is a technique that we all used in our childhood but eventually forgot as we grew into teenagers and adults. The bad news is that without this video, you're going to end up watching 10, 20, 30 other videos which are going to take you nowhere, and you'll continue to scroll, you'll continue to procrastinate, and you'll never be able to work at all. So make sure to watch till the end, because after this video, you are going to destroy all of your competition. The only way to outwork everyone is to be bored. Now, I know this is a very definitive statement, but let me explain what I exactly mean here. What you need to do is sit with yourself in a room and just think. Think and work. Just do nothing and think. Now, working, what you need to do is be with yourself, just yourself in your room. No phone, no laptop, no any electronic gadget, no one else, just you. No stimulation whatsoever. Alright, just you, your thoughts, and just you and your thoughts. That's it. Right? So you need to sit and you need to think. See, it is going to give you two things. Firstly, it will give you boredom. You're going to be extremely bored. You'll want to reach out to your phone. You'll want to reach out to your laptop. You'll want to do many things. It is going to make you bored. But after this boredom, there will come a phase when it gives you clarity. You will start asking those questions which you never asked. You'll start to think about the things you never thought. And that pain, that thought, that thinking, and everything surrounding that will give you the clarity that you need. And along with that clarity, you are going to have so many realizations that you never had. And a part of you knew that you needed to do this, but you were not doing it because you're not ready to face your demons. And then once you have this clarity and you have got all of these realizations, you need to have the same room, your thoughts, you, and one device where you are going to work. It could be a notebook, it could be your laptop, it could be a mobile. Now, whatever you have, just that device, you, your thoughts, in a room, alone, and you're just going to work with that clarity and the realizations. If you're thinking that sounds absurd, and I know I made it sound very simple, but it's not really that simple, because it is going to take you, it is simple, right? It is simple, but I never said it's easy. All right, hard, but it is simple. Why is it simple? Is because it's not complicated. It's not complicated. You just need to be with yourself in a room. But the thing is, it is very difficult nowadays for normal people to be in a room alone. Why is that? Because your brain is going to distract. Your brain will try to think of random things, think of your ex-girlfriend, or think of some form of food, or want you to reach to your phone, want to reach to your laptop or whatever, and it will try to distract you. The enemy will try to distract you, and that is the thing that is the most difficult thing to face. Because once you do that, you are going to get that clarity, and the enemy, as I said, is going to distract you. Is the strength that your enemy will have here is boredom. It is going to make you feel bored. It will make you feel that without the phone, without the music, without your laptop, you are going to be bored. But once you pass this stage, you are going to have a different level of clarity, as I said earlier. Alright, so that is why it is not easy, it is hard, but it is very simple. And with practice, you'll be able to do it. It won't happen in a day, it won't happen in an hour, but it will happen in a month. If you try to, it will. If you just try to do this every day, just don't aim for that I'm going to sit 10 hours in a room alone and do nothing. If you just start like that, it is going to be problematic. So what you need to do is start small. Start with 5 minutes. Let's start with 5 minutes. Sit for 5 minutes in a room completely alone. Alright. The next day 10 minutes, then 30 minutes, then 1 hour. alright, and then eventually you can go as long as you want. For example, at this point, I can sit in a room just by myself for 10-12 hours a day without doing anything, just staring at a wall, right? But to do that, I have been practicing this thing for the past 2 years, right? And right now, it is at this point that I'm able to just sit without doing anything for 12 hours a day straight and just stare at a wall, alright? It's not complicated, it's very simple, but it is hard because you are going to face immense psychological pain and resistance. Now, if you're thinking that this sounds absurd, that how is that this just doing this will give clarity and why is it so difficult to do that, then let me tell you about an actual experiment that was carried out by a team of scientists. Alright, so a team of researchers took a group of human beings and put them in a room. Alright, and in that room there was a button that they could press to get electric shock. That was there, just that. No other devices, no food, no phone, no music, nothing. Just that button which would give them electric shock. And they were told that if you're going to press this button, you are going to get electric shocks. And the most surprising thing is that despite knowing that the button was going to give them electric shocks, after 20 to 25 minutes of just being there, people started pressing that button because they couldn't they couldn't be with their thoughts. They couldn't stand their own thoughts. They could not handle their own thoughts. So they just started pressing the button and started giving themselves electric shocks because they were simply not able to do anything but just sit with their own thoughts. And now if this does not convince you, I don't know what will. See, I'd like to emphasize one more thing. It's not only about how much you really work. Equally important is the thing that what are you really working on. If simply working 12 hours a day would make you rich and successful, then every school going person would be a millionaire. But that's not the case and we both know that. And since you watched till here, here's a little gift for you. Go to the first link in the description and that will take you to my absolutely free newsletter where I share more in-depth stuff 3 to 5 times a week. And the thing is, no one else knows about it except you because you have watched till here. Because 95% of the people who clicked on this video have already left this video till this point. But you are there, so you are going to have an unfair advantage over everyone else, right? And since everyone who clicked in this video is directly or indirectly your competitor, you are going to outwork them. You are going to outsmart them. You are going to have an unfair advantage. And no, I know this sounds like a gimmicky marketing tactic, but trust me, it is not. It is an actual fact that 95% of the people have actually really left. And if you take the action, you are simply going to have an unfair advantage that most of all the people don't have, right? I genuinely want good people in my newsletter, so the communication and the sharing of knowledge is bi-directional, not unidirectional. And with that being said, I'll see you soon. If you could stop wasting your life, you could spend more of your time on working towards your goals and achieving them. Sadly, you most likely are not able to do that. No offense here. And that is why I have got some good news as well as some bad news for you. The good news is that I came up with a solution that allowed me to read 134 books by the age of 17, develop a literal Android application and publish it on the Google Play Store, develop a literal game, and also learn how to make music. Yes, I did all of that, and I'm not saying this to brag or anything. A few years back, during the COVID lockdown, all I did was scroll on YouTube and Instagram for 6 to 8 hours a day and waste my life. And that is why I said this, to tell you that if I could do it, you can too. However, without this video, you'll continue to watch 5, 10, 20 other videos like this which will have no substance in them and they'll take you nowhere. So you wake up, take your phone and start scrolling on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok or Reddit or any of the like that platform. Or it could be that you do everything in the morning correctly, but later half in the day, you take your phone and start scrolling and then spoil the rest of the day. And this has been happening since quite a long. So the question is, how do you actually fix it? And no, don't worry, I won't be telling you about, wake up at 4 a.m., take cold shower or anything like that. I'm not saying they are bad, these are good things, but they don't cover the fundamentals, they don't go to the core. Waking up at 4 a.m. would make no little difference if you woke up at 4 a.m. and all you did was start scrolling on Instagram or Reddit or anything like that. So the thing that I really want to talk about in this video is purpose. What is your purpose? Have you ever thought about it? If your answer to any of the questions that I asked, what is purpose and have you ever thought about it, is no, then that is the exact reason why you have been wasting your life. So how do you discover purpose? Well, I'll tell you something that it's not something that the main media portrays, that you do something and it suddenly just strikes you, oh, this is what I want to do, and then do it for the rest of your life. No, it does not work like that. You discover purpose by trial and error. And that is why the examples that I told you in the beginning, that I made game, I made Android application, I learned how to make music, I read 134 books, all these things, they individually didn't make sense, but collectively they helped me discover what I want to do. They gave me lots of skills, and using that skills, I discovered what I want to do. And that is why it takes a lot of trial and error to discover your purpose. And what most people get wrong is that they try to think, whenever they hear the word purpose, they think that they need to think something that maps out their entire life, and oh, this is what I want to do for my entire life. See, I understand it is very difficult, and that is why you don't need to figure out the purpose for your entire life. But what you need to do is figure out a purpose for the next 7 to 10 years of your life, which is imaginable and conceivable time frame. Yes, if I were to ask you, okay, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? What is what your purpose? It will be very hard to answer, because people change, and your belief systems change. You yourself change, and new things happen, and that is why answering that question is very, very big. And that is why people never really think about purpose, because they want to face this dilemma, right? But if I tell you to think about a purpose for the next 7 to 10 years of your life, it is a lot easier, and in fact, it is very possible. I'm going to give you an exact methodology that I did myself to discover what I want to do, to find what I want to do. So the way you take action and the way you stop wasting your life is that you find a purpose for the next 7 to 10 years of your life, and then break them down into missions, right? Break them down into mountains to climb. Your purpose is like the big mountain, like big thing for the 10 years of your life, and then you have got small mountains. It's like if you want to climb Mount Everest, there are many small mountains that you climb, right? But after you climb the Mount Everest, which is like the 10 years of your life, when you're done that, you might want to go to the moon, right? You might want to go even higher. Then if you want to go to the moon, you'll have to figure out how to do the atmosphere. Then you need to figure out how to go beyond the earth. So it works like that. It's a very weird analogy, I know, but my point here is, if you don't know how to cross the atmosphere, how will you be able to go to the Mars? To go to Mars, firstly you need to learn how to climb atmosphere. And that is why, just like that, in goal setting, if you want to achieve the moon, you'll firstly know how to reach mountains, and then you might be able to reach clouds, the atmosphere, the upper layer of the atmosphere, right? That is how you're going to get your goals. One thing that I would like to mention is that success is never linear. It is always exponential. Nothing happens when nothing happens, but everything happens when everything starts to happen. And that is why what you need to do is, you need to remove time frames from your mission. And that is why what you need to do is remove time frames from your missions. I'm not saying that you don't anticipate that you're never going to achieve your goals, or let's say it's going to take you 30, 40, 50 years to achieve them. No, I'm not saying that. But what you need to do is forget the minute details. Like, I know this sounds a bit contrary, but that is why you will see that most people, they're not able to achieve their goals that they set on New Year's resolution, because you never really know how long it is going to take for something to happen. And especially something as goal setting, it is really exponential. It's not linear that this will happen. It's exponential. Nothing will happen when nothing is happening, and everything is going to happen when everything starts happening. So an example, if I were to give you, is that many people set targets as to, I'm going to lose let's say 10 kilos by July 2025, and today is October 26th, but you'll be watching this in November. So if you really want to, it might seem possible, but the thing is, something might happen and the person is not able to accomplish it. And what that does is, they get demotivated. They feel that they cannot achieve their goals, and then they get bad. They get sad, and they get their confidence goes down, self-esteem goes down, and then it's a cycle. They set unexpected, unrealistic targets again, and it doesn't happen. So a better statement for goal setting would be, I want to lose 10 kilos of fat, and just forget about the time frame, and then act in accordance to someone who would have lost 10 kilos of weight. Like, for example, let's say someone weighs 100 kilos right now, right? And they want to weight 90 kilos and lose 10 kilos of weight. So what would that person who would have lost 10 kilos do? He would not eat ice cream every day. He would not, eat sweet things every day. He would not eat donuts every day. Alright. So things like that. You have to act in accordance of the character you are trying to become. Now, if I were to give you another example, let's take for making money. Let's say you're making nothing right now. You're making $0. And let's say you are going to say, I want to make $100,000 by, let's say, March 2025. Now, the problem with that statement is, if you're at zero, you don't know what business model you need. You don't know how much money you'll need to start the business. You don't know how long it will take to get the cash flow. You don't know what skills you'll need. You don't know what products you want to sell. Anything like that. And because of all these many factors that we know, and there are many factors that we don't even know about, we come to know about them once we start doing those things. So that is why you cannot really estimate a realistic enough time frame. You might, anticipate them to happen very quickly, or you might sometimes anticipate them to happen a bit too late. In either of the cases, you're at loss. What you need to be able to do is think that you are going to achieve this goal no matter what, and act in accordance to that, and at the same time completely forget about the time frame. This is known as the Stockdale paradox. Alright, and this was named after a prisoner of war, James Stockdale. He was a prisoner of war in the Vietnamese war. Alright, and basically he was kept and captivated and tortured. all right, and he literally observed firsthand that the people who survived the camps that they were in, the people who survived were the people who believed that they're going to be rescued, but they didn't have a time frame. They didn't think of a time when they would be rescued. They just knew that they're going to be rescued, and they had fun, they enjoyed. I mean, you really cannot enjoy in prison, but they didn't worry about getting rescued because they knew they will eventually be rescued. And the thing is, most people who were very optimistic that they're going to be rescued by next Christmas or next New Year or next Halloween or next whatever, they were the ones who died. They were the ones who were not able to make it, because what would happen is that whenever these people, when they would think that, okay, I'm going to be rescued by the next New Year, right? The New Year would come and they still were not rescued, so they would lose their hope and the cycle would repeat, and eventually they would lose all of their hopes and they would die. And that is why optimists die first. And this is the lesson, first very important lesson that you need to learn in goal setting, is that you need to completely forget about the time frame, and at the same time believe with full conviction that you are going to achieve the goal. So in a nutshell, what you need to do is figure out a purpose for the next 7 to 10 years of your life, and then break that purpose down into missions. Reverse engineer that purpose. What will you need to do? Who will you need to become? Reverse engineer that, and then completely forget about time frame and act in accordance, and do all that needs to be done. Do complete those missions. It's like a video game. When you're at level 0, you don't directly go and fight the level 100 monster. You firstly fight the level 1 monster. You do things, you do side quests, you do a lot of things, you get to level 1. Then at level 1 you need to do some more side quests, because it might be that from the main quest you don't get enough experience to become skilled or powerful enough to fight the main character, or to fight the villain that you need to fight to get to level 2, or in that case obstacle, right? For example, if you have played Assassin's Creed, there are many times that it happens that you need to do other side missions to level up, because the experience point that you get from the main missions are not enough for you to fight an enemy that you might encounter, right? And this is the same thing with real life as well, that the main story that you have that might not be enough, and for you to accomplish your purpose, you'll need to do other things. You'll have to do side quests. You'll have to do many side quests, and that side quest will give the experience, give you the knowledge, give you the wisdom to fight the obstacle that is in front of you. Another thing that I would like to mention is that you can assign time frames, but in the case of inputs, you cannot have time frame for outputs. That is the main caveat here. If you don't assign time frame for inputs, you are going to slack off. What I basically mean is, I'll give my own example. My current goal is to upload 3 videos a week. Now this is something that I directly control, directly. If I don't upload a video, it is solely my responsibility and my carelessness that I didn't make it, right? Of course, if something very bad happens, that is a very separate issue, but in any genuine and normal condition, if I don't upload 3 videos a week, then it is completely and solely my fault. No one else is to blame for that. Now let's say if I were to instead set a goal that said something like, I want to get 300,000 or 3 million views a week. Is that something I control? No, I don't. Making the best videos I can is something I control. Alright, making a very good thumbnail, a very great thumbnail is something I control. Making content that people really actually want to watch and helps them is something that I control. But how many views does it get? How many likes does it get? How many comments does it get? Do I control that? No, I don't. Yeah, indirectly, of course, the better the video is, the more all of these things will happen. But it's not something that I directly control. It's not in my control that how many people watch it, how many people YouTube decides to promote it. And that is why if I were to set a goal, I would really not be able to do anything about it, and I would procrastinate because it's not something that I can influence directly. Alright, then my brain would justify not doing it because it's not something that I control. Right? That is exactly the point here. Let's take the example of making $100,000 again. Okay, think of this just for this example, think of it as this is your purpose. Alright, now I know this sounds a bit weird for purpose, because most people, they think of purpose as something that is a bit beyond money. But the thing is, when you're at 0, you need to have a goal that is something that you can feel and actually conceive it and be able to visualize it, because it gets a lot easier when you can do that. And what you need to do is reverse engineer this purpose. So to make $100,000, you will need to eliminate all your bad habits, at least most of them. And what you need to do is pick a business model, whether that be e-commerce, whether that be copywriting, whether that be content creation, whether that be video editing, whether that be agency, whatever. You'll need to learn sales. You'll need to learn consumer psychology. You'll learn psychology in general. You'll need to learn how to market yourself, right? There will be many things that you will know you need to learn, but there will be many things that you didn't know ever existed, and you will have to learn them. And those things are a part of the process, right? Let's take another example of quitting porn. Firstly, you need to think about why do you do it. Then you'll need to analyze your behaviors. When do you do it? When are you most likely to do it? Alright? And then you'll need to learn some psychology. That'll make you realize that you need to learn psychology, and then you might come across something called the undiscovered self, which will basically make you aware that there is a part inside of you that is very insecure and unsafe and feels threatened, and that is why you watch porn, right? And then to destroy that self, you'll have to do things that is not congruent with the character and identity of that self, and that is why you'll have to set new fulfilling goals. So it works like that. You'll need to reverse engineer purpose. Now I've given a very short and basic example, but that's how the thought process works. Now, one thing that I didn't answer is, how do you find your purpose? As I said, it's a lot of trial and error. I made Android apps, made gaming YouTube videos like 2-3 years back, made a desktop game, made music, and now finally, after years of trying many different things, I started making these videos. So the thing is, it really does take time. What you need to do is keep experimenting and trying new things until you find the thing. Then the question is, how do you know that you have found the thing? Well, if you do something just for the sake of doing it, just for the pleasure of the sake of doing it, that means you have found it. That is it. Now, one caveat that exists is that it cannot be something like sleeping. Like, many people like sleeping, but can you do anything with that? No, you cannot, right? So it cannot be something random like that, alright? It has to be something that the world needs, and at the same time, you can do that and make money from it and sustain your living. Now, since you watched till here, here's a little thank you gift for you. Now, the thing is, it's always easier said than done. And that is why I have created an absolutely free newsletter that you can join from the first link in the description, where I share 3 to 5 many in-depth guides like this a week. And I also answer to any of your questions that you might be having. And the best part is 95% of the people have already left the video. And that means you're in the top 5% of the people who have clicked. And that is why you have got a very big unfair advantage. And we both know that unfair advantages are how you win. So make sure to use it. And with that being said, I'll see you soon. If you are not ambitious, you would accomplish all of your goals. Unfortunately, you suck at not being lazy. No offense here. But I got some good news and some bad news for you. The good news is that I came up with a solution that has allowed me to work this much on my goals. I'll put a screenshot here. Sadly, the bad news is that without this video, you'll continue to watch 10-20 other videos that will take you nowhere, and you'll continue to doom scroll or procrastinate or watch porn or any of that stuff, never actually achieving your goals. So make sure to watch till the end, because after this video, you will never have to deal with laziness ever again. So there are two cases of laziness. The first case is that you are ambitious about the goals that you really don't want to achieve. I'll elaborate later, but basically what I mean is that you have taken the goals that are set by your society, other people in your life that are not your own, and you're chasing them. So that's the first case. Or the second case is that you actually have decided what you want to do, and you have a set of goals that you want to do, but like you have got a big list of bad draining habits like doom scrolling or procrastinating or watching porn or some other form of addiction or whatever, and that basically does not let you achieve your goals. Now, even if you fall in either of these categories, I'll recommend you to watch the complete video, because like that you will make sure that you don't miss out on any information and you get the complete picture of the things. Case 1, that is you are chasing goals, or basically you have goals that you don't want to achieve, or but you don't really know that you don't want to do them, but it's like a bad cycle. Let me explain. So if you fall in this case where you are ambitious about things that you're really not interested in, alright, you are very lucky, because figuring this thing out is the elephant in the room. Once you figure this out, everything else kind of just falls in place, because if you're just going to do something that you really want to do, the chances of you procrastinating on that thing and not doing that thing is very less, even if you compared to if you would forced to do something that you don't want to do. So that is why if you just figure this thing out, that what it is that you want to do, it will get a lot easier to quit all of the bad things that you have got. So the way to solve this is, I'm going to give you a few list of steps that if you follow, you will have this thing figured out, because I have actually done it, and that's why I'm sharing it. Firstly, what you need to do is that you need to make a list of all the things that you aspire to do, alright, or basically the things that you're pursuing, alright, basically that's what I mean. So you can do this digitally, you can write it with a pen or pencil, whatever you prefer. I personally did it in Google Docs because I don't like to write. My handwriting is a bit bad, and seeing that it's not good, so I just like to do things digitally. But yeah, just make a list of all the things that you aspire to do. For me, it was business. It was moving out of the country that I currently am in. That is one goal I have. I wanted to move out of the country that I'm currently in. I had to get good marks, because the easiest and the most legally feasible way for me to get out of this country was to go get admission in some form of college or university in that country where I want to go. That'll kind of ensure that I legally become the citizen of that country, like the quickest way that is there. So that is why I need to like get good marks and also. So these are things that I aspire to do. But do I really want to study, or do I really like to study? No, I don't like to study. I don't like the the modern education system. It's complete BS. We all know that. But since I have got this goal of having to I have to go out of the country, I need to like do that. All right. So this is like one example I gave from my case. So think of all of these sort of things. It will take a bit of time. It will take like about an hour or so, I guess. It took something like that for me. And once you have that thing figured out, break down how many you really and actually want. Like something that you just find pleasure doing. All right. Now I don't mean the bad things. Like I mean the good things. Like what is something that you just enjoy doing solely because of the thing, not because you are going to get like chocolate or something like that. That's just very dumb, but like whatever. Like just the pleasure of the task is the pleasure that you get, because that if you can find something that you just do for the pleasure of doing it, that is the thing that you want to be doing always, like for the rest of your life. So for me, that is business and anything surrounding my business. All right. So for example, making YouTube videos, like this is something that falls under the category of like business, like not exactly business, but like I like content creation. I like creating things in general. I have made a few games earlier. I also tried making music. So I like to be a producer. I like to keep making things. I also made an app, by the way. This is just a side note. But as you would expect when you make a new app, you initially think, oh, it's gonna get down like lots of downloads and stuff, but that does not happen. To like get that level of downloads, you either need to have advertising budget, or you either need to have a big large audience who will like play that app or use that app. So I made a personal finance manager, still available on the Google Play Store, by the way. But I'm not trying to promote it. I'm just like telling what did I do. But it got like 10 downloads, and that's also I had like personally shared the app on Reddit for like testing and everything. So it like literally got no organic downloads. That was because I didn't have money to spend on advertising, and at the same time no one knew me. So why would anyone download my app? So like anything surrounding like my business side of things, I like to do that. So you need to like figure out what you really like to do. So for me, that has always been business. Like that has been one thing that I have always liked. And anything surrounding the proximity of business, for example, content creation, or things like that in general, or for example reading psychology books for that matter, or reading business books, like these are all the things that I enjoy. So you need to figure that one thing that you like to do just for the sake of doing it. That is it. Like if you can find that thing, you just need to do that thing for the rest of your life. Now this is something I know you might have heard many times, but the way I did it is a bit different. Not because I'm saying, but because like it worked for me, and like it kind of made clear as to what I want to do. Because last year I was like pretty lost, probably where you are right now if you're watching this video. I was very lost. I was confused as to what I should be doing, and that is because I was doing things that I didn't want to do, but everyone around me was doing, and so I got kind of like influenced by it. I was like, okay, so everyone's doing it, that means to like fit in, I need to do those things as well. But that's not how you work. Everyone has their own thing. So I made this app that I told you, right? This personal finance manager. This is not because I was really into coding or anything, but because everybody around me was talking about coding and everything, and I did make it. But like now, what you need to do is you need to think and write down the things. I've got a note here, by the way. You cannot expect me to make such a long video without looking at it. I've just got notes in Obsidian, and I'm using that. So you need to think and write down all the things that interest you, right? So for me, that was business, that was content creation, that was making things, that was like producing things. Yeah, so after you are done writing down all of your interests, you can draw sort of like intersection of circles. But what I basically did, I used Google Notes. I listed this thing like what really interests me, and then like a bulleted list of that. And then the second thing that you need to do is think and write down the things that the world needs. Now there are a lot of things that the world needs, for example coal, petroleum and all those things, but I don't mean in that sense. Like what does the world need? Like how can you do something, all right, that the world needs, something like that. For example, content creation or like good YouTube videos is something that the world needs. So that is one thing that the world needs in my case. Then for example, businesses, a world needs good businesses. Now that's a bit of a vague idea, but like you basically need to think of the things that you can do and that the world needs. It cannot be something like the world needs coal and petroleum, because you cannot really do anything about that. So you need to list down all the things that you can do to contribute to the world, and that is something that actually the world needs, not something that you just assume or anything. The world actually has to need that. All right. And then what you need to do is you need to write down all of the things that can make you money. All right, for example, content creation can make you money, business of course can make you money. Then there are other things like, for example, writing books can make you money, for example. So yeah, you need to like come up with all of these things, and then you need to find the things that like overlap in all of this. There are certain combination of two things that you can do. For example, if something that you really want and it is something that can make you money, you can do that, because eventually you will like develop the interest. And same goes for that. If you really are interested in that, and if you can make money from it and you start making from it, then it will eventually become something that you really want. Of course, the ideal scenario is that you get something that is like present in all of these things, and you take that and you basically do that and enjoy doing it. And I don't think you'll ever have to regret or procrastinate after you start doing this. Of course, there will be times when you get lazy, and one thing that I would like to add is, initially nothing is like very, very pleasurable. Like, for example, I like making videos, so I'm making them, but it's not something that I really, really want to do right now. Like, for example, I could be watching a movie or something. I don't really like watching movies, but like something like watching YouTube or playing some games or something like that. So it's not something that I really, really want to do right now. Yeah, I do want to do it because I know it's important for my business and I'm interested in doing it, and like very good for my future, and it's very conducive compared to watching a YouTube or something. But if given the option, the easiest option or the easiest thing for me to do right now is not make YouTube videos. It demands effort. It demands me speaking in front of a camera. It demands me having to put effort. I have already written the like context and the scripts and everything, and I'm speaking, so it is requiring energy from me. And in return, of course, I'm having fun, so I'm doing it, but I'm not getting like the pleasure that you would get from watching YouTube or eating something like an ice cream or something. Get the point, right? So that is my point here. Initially, you are not going to like do it. Oh my god, I'm doing it. I'm really having. It doesn't happen like that. Once you start and get better at things, you'll automatically like start liking it. And plus, once you start making money, the money factor kicks in, and like it goes on like a loop, and you're going to love it after that. Now, what you need to do is you need to develop a plan to accomplish the intersection that you have selected. You need to transform that intersection into a sort of a goal, and you need to develop a first principle plan of that goal. You basically need to reverse engineer that goal. All right, I'll make a full video on this soon, but basically you need to just break that goal from first principles, and you need to reverse engineer it. I'll make a separate video on that soon, because properly planning is something that most people fail, and most people don't do it properly because they just have a goal and they think achieving that thing requires luck, where it's not really luck. It is luck, but it's some form of luck. If you just do everything properly, luck just magically happens. So you just need to plan in a certain way to okay. So now moving on to case 2, as I said, okay, so the thing is, solving this is, now you might be doing like those bad habits, and you might be thinking that getting them out of your life is like pretty difficult or something. But the thing is that he who has a why can bear anyhow, is what Friedrich Nietzsche said. And in most cases, if you're having issues with this thing, that you're having bad habits and you're procrastinating, in most cases you haven't got the foundations set up correctly. Basically, like, you have not really done the first thing that I said. Like, you need to figure out something that you really want to do. If you have really like done that properly, then this problem, I'm not saying it will not completely exist, but it will not exist to that level where you are not doing any work and like it's really hurting your progress. Yeah, it will sometimes, because it's by human nature that you want to do the easiest thing that is possible to do out there. But if you do the first thing properly, that you really select something that you really want, this is not something like, for example, as I said earlier, business content creation is the thing that I really want to do. So, but it's not the easiest thing, as I said earlier. It's not the easiest thing that for me to do right now. I could be watching YouTube, I could be eating ice cream or anything like that, but I'm not doing those things because I didn't want to. I wanted to make videos, right? I don't want, and it was not very big of a problem for me to sacrifice that because I really like doing it. All right. So in most cases, yeah, of course, when you're tired, and sometimes it will happen that you procrastinate and you don't do it. But in most cases, if you like doing it to such extent that it's hurting your progress towards your goal, then that basically means you have not done the first thing properly. Either way, you don't do bad habits to gratify yourself. Porn, video games, drugs, or any other form of dopamine that you do is not something that you really crave. What you are really trying to do is fill a void inside of you. A void of rejection, a void of ignorance, a void of failure, or anything like that. You're trying to fill that void. This is basically known as the undiscovered self. Now, this is something that demands a full video on its own. This is something that I have learned after studying Carl Jung, and I will make a dedicated video on this, but I don't want to keep everything for a dedicated video. I would like to talk about it here as well because it's very, very important. And if you basically understand this, if you understand how this thing works, this thing, the bad habits that you have, they are never going to be a problem for you. So this, what is the void that I was talking about, this void, what do you want to call it, this is basically known as the undiscovered self, as I said earlier, alright? And to bring it into your awareness, you need to do something called integration. Now, how do you do integration is something that I'll make a video later on, alright? That demands again a full video on its own. And secondly, if you really want to do, like, just after this video, you can just search Carl Jung integration. And personally, I also learned it online, like how to do integration. Like, I learned about the concept from Carl Jung's book, but I haven't like got the time. I didn't get the time to like read from him like how do you do it. So I just searched a Medium article, and it was pretty good, pretty detailed, and I kind of understood how to do it, and then I did it, and it has worked. So you can get it online as well. Just I would recommend reading on Medium because I think there are very good people on Medium who are actually like professionals, and they can like they write really good stuff. So if you're reading from people who actually know what they're talking about, then it'll be very good. So then you'll be able to do it properly. So yeah. So I'll basically tell you in a like sort of a nutshell how you do it, and so that you have an action step right after this video to follow. So the first thing that you do is observe your thoughts and your behavior while you're doing the thing, right? So I know this sounds a bit weird because whenever you are doing whatever bad habit that you do, it's kind of like autopilot, that you get something, a thought, and you like pick up the phone or light the cigar or something, whatever, and you start doing it. But it's not that difficult. Yeah, you will have some problem maybe 1 or 2 times, but after you get habituated to like doing it, then it's very easy. What you need to do is while doing it, just see your thoughts. Like, let's say you're scrolling on Instagram. Alright, now it is something that happens kind of like on autopilot, but while scrolling, just keep thinking about what you're thinking. Try to observe your thoughts. Alright, try to see what your brain is trying to make you think. Alright, this is a bit difficult to do, but just requires a bit of attention and a bit of practice. If you can do that, this will change your life, literally. After you do that, you need to write them down. Alright, now again, it's your choice if you prefer like paper or something. I again use Google Docs to do it, and you need to write all of your thoughts down. Alright, write whatever's going on in your head. Like, just start with adjectives. It doesn't have to be very detailed or anything, just the words or just the things, something that you can understand as to what they reminded you of, something like that. Now, all of the things that you have listed, or not for all, not for each one, I wouldn't like say for each one because that will get a bit tedious, but at least in general, just think about, pick themes when you write like everything down. So you'll have themes. For example, something can be about some thoughts can be about, let's say, your future. Some thoughts can be about your ex-girlfriend. Some thoughts can be about your parents. So you'll see recurring themes there. All right, so take the themes, or take the categories that the thoughts or whatever fall into, and break that. Like, ask why 5 times. You need to break that down from first principle. Like, for example, let's say you had a thought about going to a birthday party tomorrow. All right, let's say it's a friend's birthday party, and while scrolling on Instagram, your brain is trying to process that, right? So ask why. Why is my brain trying to give me this thought while scrolling on Instagram? Alright. And you might come up with an answer as to, because I want to maintain my friendship. Well, why do you want to maintain your friendship? Because I want to have friends. Why do you want to have friends? Because I don't want to be lonely. Why do you don't want to be lonely? Now, it gets deeper and deeper, and gets very layers deep. And I gave you a very superficial example, like friend's birthday, but it's not. People brain generally doesn't like to think that deep sort of things while doing. It's very basic stuff. For example, what food you want to eat, or what dress you want to wear, or some past cringe memories that you have had. All these things. So you need to like take those things and keep thinking as to why is my brain trying to like make me think this or giving me this sort of information at this point of time. And just ask 5 times. Ask why 5 times. Like, you can go more, but 5 times is like the basic. If you do it 5 times properly, you will get the like core fundamental reason behind it. So just do it 5 times, alright? And once you do that, you will have successfully traced your trauma. Now, I don't know if trauma is the proper word to use there, but basically you will have traced the foundations of it, traced the first principle of that particular chain of thought. And one thing that I would like to mention is that you will have immense resistance. Like, after this video, your brain might convince you, oh no, whatever he's saying is bullshit, and who is he to like teach on this topic and blah blah blah. By the way, to convince your brain, I'll give you some proof as well. A few years back during lockdown, my screen time on my phone was 6 to 8 hours, and right now my screen time is this. I'll like put a screenshot here. So I barely use my phone, and that is also just because I have been I cannot make my phone calls so on anything else, so I need my phone to just make phone calls. Like that's all the thing that I just do on it, just make phone calls, that's it. I don't do anything else. So yeah, you can use this reason to convince your brain, by the way, to let you do it. But see, you are going to face immense resistance, because the key to destruction is awareness. And your brain knows that once you get aware of this thing, you're going to destroy it. Alright. So you will face resistance, you will not want to do it, your brain will come up with reasons that are absolutely absurd and will try to convince you to not do it. But you must not fall into that trap, because if you do, your that undiscovered self, or what you want to call it, that will stay hidden, that will not come to the light. And if you cannot see the enemy, how are you going to destroy it? Right? So to destroy the enemy, you need to see it. And as to, if you're wondering how long is it going to take, it's not going to take you a day, it's not going to take you a week or anything like that. It's just going to take you 1 to 2 hours. If you do sit down and do some deep work, it will take you 1 to 2 hours, not more than that. It took me about, I think, somewhere about 1 hour and 30 minutes, something around that, 90 to 100 minutes, something like that. If you just do that properly, just sit down, no distractions, in a room alone, it will not take you more than that. You can get it done. And doing that, after that process of integration that you do, it is going to be so lightened. Your brain is going to feel so, like, I don't know how to explain it, but I personally felt as if there were like hundreds of kilos of weight that my brain was carrying, and it just got released. It feels like that. So I know this sounds a bit absurd, but try doing it and you'll understand what I'm trying to say actually. Since you watched till here, make sure to comment integration so that I can know that you did, and also because to confuse other people who didn't watch till here. Alright. Now I understand that you might be thinking, okay, but how do I develop a plan and follow on my goals? Because, well, that's why we're doing it, right? Well, that's what I talked about in this video. See you there. Caring too much about what anyone and everyone thought about me was the biggest mistake I made in my early teenage years. And I know if you have clicked on this video, that means you definitely have regret inside of you. Let me tell you one thing that I realized recently. Oversharing, overcaring, or worrying too much, or wrong friendships, doing drugs, or not focusing on work at the right time are mistakes that everyone makes in their early, or most of the people make in their early teenage years. But they are nothing compared to what I'm about to tell you in this video. The biggest mistake is not knowing your mistakes, and then once you know that you have made them, not accepting them at the right moment. I know it sounds gimmicky, but what I really mean here is, whatever mistake you have made, there will come a time when you are going to realize it. And that time will be the time to accept that mistake, accept that you have done it, but you will not want to do so because of resistance. You might even cringe over it, and you might think that why did you do it and stuff like that. And that is exactly the reason behind porn, masturbation, addiction, or doom scrolling, or procrastination, or any of those things. And so in this video, I'll be teaching you how to realize the meta mistake and destroy it so that it does not destroy you. So how do you realize the meta mistake? Alright. So to do that, the first thing that you need to do is that be with yourself in a room completely alone, and that is something that I have taught about exactly in this video. So make sure to watch this video after you're done watching this one. So firstly, what you need to do, cut off communication from all of your friends and everyone that you don't need to communicate to. Of course, if you're living with your parents, or if you're living with someone, then you have to talk to them. But what I really mean is that cut off communication, cut off digital communication. Yeah, of course, if it's something like your parents or someone that you must absolutely talk to, then keep that. But you will end up eliminating, like if you have got 10 10 people that you talk to every day, you'll just be left with 1 or 2. So make sure to do that so that you don't over communicate and don't overshare, and actually get the alone solitude time that you need to do this thing. Second thing that you need to do is think of all of the things that make you feel bad, some form of negative emotion. Think of all of those things that give you some form of negative emotion. For example, you can think of something that makes you angry, something that makes you sad, something that makes you feel regret, something that makes you cringe. Any of those things. Think of anything and everything that gives you a ting of negative emotion. And what you need to do is write them down. Alright. Now again, as I said, you can use Google Docs or you can use pen or paper to do this. Write them down. It doesn't have to be very detailed or anything, but it has to be clear enough so that you understand it when you read it later on. Then what you need to do is that you need to do the same thing but opposite. You need to think of all the things that give you a ping of positive emotion. It could make you feel happy, it could make you feel excited, it could make you feel curious, it could make you feel motivated, inspired, whatever. Think of everything that you have done that gives you a feeling of all of these, like any of these feelings. It could be helping someone, it could be completing a task that you're procrastinating, it could be, being disciplined when your body was really trying to not be disciplined. Like all of these things, you need to think of that as well, and then write them down as well. I'll give you an example for each. Firstly, let's take the bad example. So a few months back, I played a game called Mad Game Tycoon 2 obsessively, and playing it was not the problem. It was a very good strategic game where you really had to think a lot. But the keyword here is obsessive. Anything that you do it in extremes is very bad. So that was the problem. I used to play that very much, and all I thought was about how to maximize my profits in the game, and that thing wasted quite a lot of my time, and I really feel bad about wasting that much of time on a video game. Now the good one example is that I recently worked 12 hours in a day. I'll put the screenshot here if you want to see. Now I will not give you a fixed number for the list that I mentioned. Like, you can come up with as many as you want, but try to come up with at least 5 or 6, because that will give you enough data to see emerging patterns and see some form of pattern that will emerge, and that pattern will help you recognize it. If you just do 1 or 2, then you will not have enough data to base anything off on. So make sure you do at least 5, 6. I personally did 10 to 12. So the more you do, the better, but don't take it to 100, 200 as well. So yeah, don't go that extreme as well, but yeah, try to do at least 5 or 6. You could go up to 20 or 30 types. Once you have done that, what you need to do is analyze both the list of good as well as the bad things and ask these questions. The first thing that you need to ask is, why did I do it? What really motivated you to do it? The answer should be here, the emotion. Like, whenever you do something, it is based off an emotion. So whatever that emotion was, you need to write that down. Now I know remembering the exact emotion might be a bit difficult, so at least try to come close. Try to think that what was it that made you feel, whether you were angry on someone, whether someone did something that caused a bit of jealousy in you, that you decided to take that action. So any of that. Then what was my state of mind while doing it? You need to ask, did you act impulsively, or did you think about it? Did you plan rationally, or was it a strategic move? Was it something that you thought at least for some time and then you did, or was it something that you just thought about and just did without thinking anything about the consequences or anything? You need to answer in either these of the two options. Now, what was the actual outcome or the consequence? Basically, what was the first order consequence of you taking that action, you doing the thing? And lastly, what you need to ask is, what did I exactly do? Now I know this sounds a bit stupid, of course you know what you did, but writing it down will just add a different level of clarity. You don't need to completely explain it and make an entire essay or something, but you need to write in brief, what did you exactly do? Now once you do this for all of your good as well as bad things, you'll start to see a pattern. A pattern will consist of common elements like your mood, your state of mind, your emotions, your actions, the consequences, and all of these things. And you will start to absorb recurring patterns. You'll start to see the things that happen again and again and again. Like, for example, there could be a certain mood that forces you to do a certain action. Now, of course, the actions are going to be different, but the theme of the actions are going to be the same. There will be many actions that fall under the same thing. For example, procrastination. Watching YouTube is procrastination. Watching Netflix is procrastination. Watching a movie when you should be working is procrastination. Now, all of these 3 actions are different actions, but they fall under the same umbrella of procrastination. Alright, so you'll start to see recurring themes. For example, you procrastinate when you're sad. Alright, now you might be watching Netflix when you're sad, you might be watching YouTube when you're sad, or something like that. And what you notice is that all of these things fall under procrastination. So that means whenever you're sad, you tend to procrastinate. Alright, so this is how you take the pattern and you link it to your emotion. And the key to elimination is awareness. You cannot kill an enemy you're not aware of. And I would like to warn you that your brain is going to tell you that this is absolute nonsense and bullshit and it's not going to work. Because that's exactly what my brain told me as well. But trust me, once you do it, it's going to change your life. It is going to make you so much aware of your behaviors, of your patterns, of your thoughts, of your emotions, of your actions, every damn thing. You'll just reach a different level of awareness. Now I don't mean it on a monkish level that you're like that, but you will basically be able to see something let's say you're trying to work here and your brain is okay, let's go and watch YouTube. You'll be no, hello brain, I recognize that I'm not going to do it, I'm going to work. So you'll have that level of awareness, and you will be able to resist any of the cheap dopamine that your brain tries to convince you to take. And as I said, your brain will try to convince you to not do it, but that is nothing but resistance trying to stop you from doing the work, because it knows that once you do this, the enemy is going to get identified, that you are going to become aware of the enemy, and you're going to destroy it. Now, if you watched till here, here's a little thank you gift. I've given you the exact steps that you need to take, but the thing is, it is still going to be a bit difficult, and we both know that. And so, to make it easy for you, I've created my own newsletter, which is absolutely free, and I post more in-depth stuff like 3 to 5 times a week, consisting of many detailed guides, which are a lot longer. And of course, they'll come eventually on YouTube as well, but if you need them quicker, and if you want to get the information a bit more frequently, because making these YouTube videos takes a bit of time, and there's a cap on how many I can upload in a week, but there's no cap on how much I can write. Of course, there's a cap on that, but that cap is a lot higher than the one that I have on YouTube here. And you know what is the best part about this newsletter or this thank you gift that I'm giving you? Most of the people don't know about it, because 95% of the people have already left this video. So only 5% of the people who initially clicked are still watching. So that means you have an unfair advantage over your competition, because everyone who clicked on this video is your competition, right? And you are getting an unfair advantage. And we both know that unfair advantages are how you absolutely destroy all of your competition. So make sure to take advantage of it. With that being said, I'll see you soon. From 13 to 17, the age that I currently am, I have learned some lessons the hard way. And that's why, to make sure that you don't have to learn these lessons the hard way, I'll be sharing 4 lessons that I learned in these 4 years, which will save you years of pain. The biggest lesson I learned was that not sticking to one thing in your early teenage years is actually a good thing. So here's what I did, alright. So when I got started with making videos since I was 11, when I was 11 I started making YouTube videos. And the reason behind that was I wanted to play GTA San Andreas on my phone. And I used to search, I was searching like videos for that, but I couldn't find any genuine video. They used to have that link shorters, which is full of ads, and the file that they used to give never really worked. And I got really pissed off at one point, and I was like, okay, fine, I'm not going to search on YouTube, I'm going to find it myself. And I eventually did find it myself, and I downloaded it, installed it, and made it work. And then I was like, okay, if I have this problem, then there might be many other people who might be having a similar problem. Right, these people are full of scammy people, not putting links which are full of advertisements which don't really work. So I decided to make a video on that, and so I did. And I don't really remember how many views that video got, but that is basically the backstory of how I got into making videos. And yeah, I used to make them on my phone. And after doing that for a few years, I got bored from it. Like I had that was a kind of a gaming channel, and I got about a few thousand subscribers. I'll explain like in detail a bit later in the video. So after a few years of doing that, I got bored from that, and so I decided to learn how to make music, because that was the time when Alan Walker was really booming, and he had released his song "On My Way," which was like very popular on PUBG. So I really got interested in making music and stuff, and so I did. I started making music. I learned how to make music. I learned FL Studio. I learned Nexus. I learned all these plugins and everything. And I released about, I guess, 5-6 tracks. I don't really remember. But they didn't really succeed because they were really bad. Now that I look at them, at that time, of course, I thought they were really good and they deserved to be like winners and deserve millions of streams or whatever. But that didn't happen. I got bored from that, and then I went into game development. Now, why did I go into game development? Because I had a PlayStation 4, and I kind of got bored by playing games on that. And I also did have a laptop at that point, kind of a gaming laptop. And I really didn't find any good games because I had just completed Red Dead Redemption 2 and I really liked that game. And I was like, okay, I don't have a good game to play, so I'm just going to make my own game. So I got into game development. I learned Unity, I learned C# and everything. And I kind of made a Flappy Bird type game. And I used to play that, and yeah, that's the story. And then I also made a game for another purpose, and that was for one of my friend's birthday. And whilst I was doing this, I was still making videos on my YouTube, the gaming channel that I mentioned. Although the views were really down because I wasn't really that consistent, and plus the content market was like very limited. And what had happened was that there was one video about a game I taught how to download that game, and that video like blew up. It got like 500,000 views. And the problem with that was that video brought a lot of audience who were just interested in that particular game. So any other video that I uploaded on any other game, they simply wouldn't watch, and that is why I had a lot of people who were simply not interested in the content I was making. And basically that was one of the reasons why I got bored, because if you have like few thousand subscribers and you just get like 50 to 100 views, it's not really that gratifying to make videos, right? But even those videos and views and whatever I got, I guess it's a lot more than I deserve, because now that I look at those videos, the channel is not there, but I did, like, when I got the notice that the channel is going to get terminated, I downloaded all of my data and everything, and I kept it in a hard drive. Now I look at those videos, they really don't deserve like 500,000 views that I got on that video. Like, the music is too loud, the the editing is horrible, like. But okay, more on this thing later actually. Now, after I did make games and something, I kind of lost interest after a few months. Like, I honestly wanted to launch a game and like make money from that, but I felt like that was too big of a deal for me, and I really wasn't interested in a lot of aspects of game development. Like, for example, I didn't like the what do you say? I didn't like animation and rigging and all those things. I just liked coding, and I just liked world design. And so, as I was like, I guess 13 something, 12 or 13, I guess at that point, I didn't have the money, of course, to hire people or something like that. So I basically left doing that, and then I got into app development. And not actually app development. Before I got into app development, I got into web development. And the reason being, as I was not getting views on YouTube, I decided to destroy YouTube. So as I was not getting views, I just thought, okay, I'm going to build a competitor to YouTube, and I'm going to destroy YouTube and make my own YouTube, and where people actually get views. And that was a very funny source of idea or whatever. But I learned JavaScript. I learned HTML in JavaScript, and I did actually start making some of it. But it didn't take long for me to realize, okay, making YouTube is actually quite complicated, and you need lots and lots of storage, and you need lots and lots of money to like back up that servers and everything. So yeah, then I was like, okay, fine. If I can make a website, let's just make an app. So then I learned about Studio, Java, and everything, and then I made a personal finance manager app because it was kind of the simplest thing to make, and plus something that was also in demand. So I made that. I was expecting like at least a few thousand downloads, but I didn't get that. I got just about 20 downloads, and that also got reduced to 10. And that 20 downloads were like, you need that many downloads to like launch the app on the Play Store. Before like you publicly launch it, you have to do some testing and everything. And I got those downloads myself from Reddit, and by sharing the app. So it was not like organic downloads or anything. And after like that app flopped, I kind of just lost interest. I thought to market that app. I also even tried. I made Instagram short form content. I made about 60-70 short like reels, but well, they didn't work because I was not really enjoying what I was doing. So yeah, that happened, and now I'm making these videos, doing the thing that I really like to do. So what I'll really recommend is, don't be afraid to try new things in your early teens. Don't be afraid of trying and failing. Anything like that doesn't really matter, because the skill set that you're going to have, it's going to pay dividends for years to come. Like, for example, making this YouTube gaming video that I used to make before, like this thing taught me a lot about basic YouTube. Like, of course, I still have a lot to learn right now, but I'm a lot better at it than I would have been had I not made those around 500 or 600 videos that I made previously, right? So of course, if I was just making this would have been my first few videos, then of course the quality would have been a lot more worse than what it is right now, because I have made like 500 videos. So, and I kind of understand what makes a good video. So of course there's still a lot more to learn, and I don't know anything. The greatest wisdom is in knowing that you know nothing. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, and making that app, making those YouTube videos, they demanded a lot from me. They demanded me waking up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. because, well, I had school in the day and I had to go to the school. But I really wanted to do those things. So I used to wake up at 3 a.m., I used to wake up at 4 a.m., I used to sleep at 11, 12, something like that. And I used to do that, right? Because I loved doing it at that point. I really wanted that thing, right? Yeah, I eventually lost interest and discovered this is not something that I really wanted to do. This is something that I have been kind of influenced, and not something that was completely based out of my own rationale. So there's that, but don't be afraid, because it will teach you discipline. It will make you quit any of the bad habits that you have. Because when I started doing these things, many of my problems like doom scrolling or scrolling on my phone or Instagram or whatever, anything that I had, they just disappeared, right? And yeah, of course, it demanded some effort to remove them from my life, but it wasn't really that complicated, because I had a very big reason. If you just imagine, if you have to develop a little app when you're 13, 14, and you have to launch it on the Google Play Store, and and you have the option to scroll on Instagram, which do you think are you going to do? If you isn't it a lot easier to convince yourself to work on that app, because, well, you're just 13 and you're launching a bloody app on Google Play Store, rather than just scrolling on? It's not that hard if you have a very big reason. So all these things, and they just taught me a lot about discipline. At the same time, I was reading a lot of books, right, related to the things that I was doing. So it's very good. Nothing really goes to waste. The second very big lesson that I learned was success in any field demands consistency and patience. Without these two things, no matter what you try, what you do, you cannot have it. And the reason I learned this, or the way of learning this, was I started my YouTube channel in like 2018, and in 2022, the year lockdown started, I got monetized. Right, I was 4 years later, so I was technically 14, 15 back then, right? So I got monetized, and like the at that point, of course, I felt I deserved that monetization, I deserved the views that I had and everything that I had. But now that I look at those videos, I can clearly see the videos don't deserve to get that many views or monetize or anything, because they were just bad. This is just outright bad, alright? And especially the topics that I was making videos on, they also had very limited, like restricted audience, right? So, and despite that, I got monetized and I made about $120 just from AdSense. If I include, like, I also got like sponsors. I got 2 sponsors and I made about $200. So if you just stick to something for long enough and you do it consistently, you are going to find success in that. I used to make horrible videos. I made horrible videos, but I made 500 of those videos, almost 600, 530, 40, 50-ish, I guess. I don't remember exactly. Almost 600 videos. I did that for 4 years consistently because I loved doing it. And eventually I made $200. Now, I know this sounds foolish, this sounds weird, but a 13, 14-year-old did that, alright? I don't exactly remember, like, I think it was in the lockdown year. This was 2022 and I got monetized, 24, so I'm thinking 17 right now. So it was somewhere in class 7 or 8 that I got monetized, so it was technically 14 or 15, I don't remember the exact year, but when I was 14 or 15, I made that money, right? Now $200 might not seem a lot, and it is not a lot, but making $200 is very important before you make $1,000 or $100,000 or anything like that. Yeah, I was very, very small back then. I didn't understand how it happened and why it happened and anything like that. But now that I look at things a lot more objectively, I can clearly see it was just me trying to do something for years on end, making 550, almost 600 videos, and doing it, and I basically got it, right? So if you do something consistently for years on end that you love doing, you are going to find success no matter what. But the thing is, people are very impatient. They just want results quick, and I have been a victim of that. I still am a bit impatient, but now rather than getting depressed or sad and worrying and not working, I just double the output. If I'm impatient, like a very insider news that I would want to give you, so if you're interested in knowing, is that I am planning to do a challenge. Alright, I'm planning to do a challenge in December. Now, what it is exactly, I cannot reveal that, but if you want to know exactly, I will be sharing the details in my newsletter. So you can you can find it in the first link in the description. So what I do right now is, if I get impatient, I just double the input. I don't care about the output, I just double the input. So that kind of just fuels that energy as well, and at the same time cools my mind that I am at least trying from my end and I'm using my impatience for something good. And in fact, not only monetization, but in 2000, like I mentioned, that 40, my channel just exploded. I had like 1,000 to 2,000 subscribers, and I reached 8,000 subscribers. 8,000 subscribers, like in just a span of a few months. Like before that, I just had 1,000 or 2,000 subscribers. The reason I was not getting monetized was because of watch hours. Actually, there are 2 criteria for monetization, was like 1,000 subscribers and watch hours. So I was not getting the watch hours that I needed, because as I said, I got the views. This is before the viral video that I talked about, that came after in my 3rd year. And the video took 2, 3, 4 months to start picking up, and when that video picked up is when I got monetized. Now, before I continue, I'd like to mention that the upcoming 2 lessons that I'll share, they are linked to the previous two that I shared. So in case you have skipped, and in case you have skipped things, make sure to watch the entire video so that you grasp the entire thing. The 3rd lesson that I learned was, the earlier you figure out what it is that you want to do, the quicker you're going to be successful. Now, like for example, had I not gotten obsessed with YouTube when I was 11, I was in class 6 back then, and people, if you know what happens in class 6, people get puberty and everything, and they are a lot more inclined towards making friends, talking to girls, and going to parties and everything. And these things start at that end, and you don't really understand what's happening. But I was very introverted, and I still am, but of course it's a lot more healthier version of that. But that introvertedness that I had, that kind of became the reason what I have done everything today, because I didn't really care about friends. I didn't really want friends. I didn't really want to talk to anyone. So all I did was obsess over YouTube. And because of that, as I said earlier, the basic skill set that I had for making videos is a lot higher compared to what I would have had if I wouldn't have made videos at 11. I started making videos at 11. And that is why it becomes very, very important to keep trying things and keep doing things and failing at them, because the quicker you're going to fail, the quicker you're going to learn. And success from what I have learned, is not built upon success. Success is built upon layers and layers and layers of failure. For you to succeed on one thing, you need to fail at many different things, and then you are going to be successful. Now, of course, you don't need to fail intentionally, or you don't need to, like, you can of course learn from others' failures as well. But the core argument here is, until unless you try and fail at least a few things, you're not going to find success. Because the first fundamental thing of finding success is finding something that you want to find success in. That is very, very important. Most people forget this part. For you to be called successful, you need to find something that you want to do, that you want to be called successful at. What is success, right? Success is basically doing something that you want to do correctly. Like, for example, if target is to lose like 10 kilos in the next year, like 2025, and lose body fat, and if you're able to do that by the end of 2025, then you are successful at that. You became a success at losing weight. But for you to become successful at losing weight, you need to first figure out that you want to lose weight. How do you expect to be successful if you don't know what is it that you want to be successful at, right? And this is where people get wrong, because they don't really stop to think what is it that you want to do. And this is where like 9-to-5ers get wrong, is they never stop and try out and experiment with things and think about what it is wanted. They just, go to school and do stuff and never really question and never really think that what is it that they're trying to do, what is it that they want to be called successful at. And that is the fundamental problem. You need to try, learn, experiment and fail, and then eventually you'll stumble upon something that is the thing that you really want to do, and then you keep doing that for years, and then you become successful at that, and then you're called successful. This is how it works, but people don't understand this for some reason. It is not complicated. It's very simple. You just need to sit with yourself and think for some time to absorb this. This is what basically happens. Every successful person out there has some sort of a story or a backstory that somehow connected to what they did. And so that is why I want to tell you something that might be, in fact, it is a lot contrary to what people say. And that is that try, fail, experiment, and don't stick to one thing in your early teenage years until you discover the thing. And I'll tell you how do you know if you discover the thing in the next section. But yeah, that is it. Try, learn, experiment, and fail. Don't stop at one thing unless you find the thing. Because one thing leads to the other, and you never know what you might end up discovering, what you might end up finding, and what you might end up doing, right? And you keep on compounding your skill set, your wisdom, everything. All right. And I'd like to quote one of my favorite people here, and he says, "Stay hungry and stay foolish." The second thing that I'd like to quote here is that you can never connect the dots looking forwards. You can only connect them looking backwards. And that is why you need to believe in some supreme force that the dots will eventually connect. Both of these quotes were said by Steve Jobs. And I guess you understand what he really meant when he was saying this now. The final lesson I learned was that after you're done trying and experimenting and failing at things, you need to pick one thing and then stick to it for that thing to be able to make a difference in your life for at least 7 to 10 years. All right. And I know this might sound a bit contrary to what I said earlier, but let me explain. I'm not saying you to pick this one thing after a few days, months, or even years. All right. It might take you 4-5 years, doesn't really matter. But you need to pick it. You need to decide one thing and then you need to stick to it. I was 11 when I got obsessed with YouTube, and right now I'm 17. So it took 6 years for me. Now, of course, if you're starting a bit later, your decision-making skills and your ability to think will be a lot quicker and better than an 11-year-old, right? So it might not take that long. Now, the $1 million question is, how do you know that you have discovered the thing? All right. So the answer is that if you find and come across something that you love doing just for the sake of doing it, you find absolutely true love in doing the thing. Like, you don't need any form of reward, you don't need anything else, and you just want to do that thing just for the sake of doing it. That is the thing you want to be doing. And the thing is, you'll never have to force yourself to do it. The passion and the love that you'll have for the work that you'll be doing will be on a completely different level. Yeah, sometimes you might procrastinate or something, but in most cases, you won't have to force yourself. You'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it just for the sake of enjoying. Like right now, I'm enjoying talking to the camera. I'm enjoying, explaining this thing that I'm talking about. Alright, I love doing it. That is why, if I were to give my own example, I tried development, I tried making music, I tried making games, I tried making gaming YouTube videos earlier. I tried all of these things, but none of them sticked. Like, YouTube videos is something that sticked, but gaming videos is not something that stick with me, because I just involved and I don't really enjoy gaming that much at this point. But the one thing that I always kept coming back to by default was making videos. Like, every once and then I tried making short form Instagram reels. I tried making for marketing of that app that I mentioned. I tried making faceless YouTube videos. I tried everything and like anything that I did, I defaulted back to making like videos, and that is why I came back to it. And this time with a very good strategy and a like very big vision in place as to why am I doing it and how am I doing it. And as you have already learned from the previous 3 lessons, if you stick to something and do it consistently for years on end, you are going to be successful no matter what. And with that being said, I'll see you soon. If you're struggling with procrastination, doom scrolling, or porn addiction, you are definitely not where you want to be. And that's why I've got a good news as well as a bad news for you. The good news is that I came up with a solution that allowed me to turn my life around in 2024, reducing my screen time on my phone from 6 to 8 hours a day to 30 minutes, under 30 minutes, allowing me to work at least 4 hours daily and read over 50 books in just 2024. However, the bad news is without this video, you'll continue watching 5-10 other how to make the greatest comeback videos which will have no substance in them and they won't really help you. So I'll tell you one thing very honestly, to make a comeback in 2025, it is not going to be easy, but it is going to be very, very simple. It is really very simple. But there is a very big difference in something being simple and something very easy. Because all that you need to do is decide what you want to do and then do it. Isn't that simple? I don't think it's complicated, right? But the thing is that most of you guys have is that you aren't able to sit with yourself alone in a room and decide what you really want to do. And even if some of you are able to decide it, you have got very like list of bad habits that don't allow you to do that. You might not be able to take action because you might doom scroll, start watching porn, or procrastinate by listening to music or anything like that, right? And that is why in this video I'll be teaching you how to decide what it is that you really want to do and then actually sit, focus, and then do it. Take action on it. First, let's talk about how do you decide what you want to do. So if you have clicked on this video, that definitely means there is something that you want to do that is different from where you are right now. Maybe you want to start a new business or a side hustle, or like get in shape, go to the gym, or maybe get a new girlfriend or whatever like that. Now, what most people get wrong is if they have got many problems in their life, like for example, let's say you have got poor eating habits and you have also got porn addiction. If you're going to try to fix both of them at once, you're going to be able to fix none. You might have heard the parable that if you are going to chase 3 rabbits, you're going to end up catching none. The same thing is with trying to eliminate your problems. If you try to eliminate all of them at once, you won't be able to do it. You need to like decide one problem that is hampering you the most and then take action on that. So decide one thing that you really want to do. Alright, and this is how you decide it. Firstly, you need to make a list of all the things that you want to do, like everything that you can possibly think of. Take 10, 15, 20 minutes and like make a list of everything that you want to do. There is no cap on this. You can make a list as long as you want. Of course, don't go into thousands or something, but like 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever you want. A realistic number, there is no cap on this. Then what you need to do is reduce this list to 10 items. Alright, it doesn't matter how big the list is, you need to cut it out everything. That there'll be many things that you can very easily cut out, and there'll be a few things that you might have to consider a little bit. So what you need to do is eliminate everything and make the list to just a number of 10. Then after you are done doing that, what you need to do is reduce that list further to only containing 3 items. Now this is going to be very difficult and it will take some time to do this because the 10 items that you might have selected might be very close to you and you really want to do them. So you'll really have to eliminate here and just pick 3. And then what you need to do is from that 3 you need to pick 1. Now this entire thing might take some time, it might take 1 to 2 hours, but that is what you need to do. And it doesn't matter which one you pick in this case because all 3 of these are things that you really want to do, because you might have filtered them out from 20 like 30, 40 things. So any of which you picked from this 3 are going to be equally important and equally like desirable to you. Now, how to take action. So once you decide the one thing, your brain will try its level best to distract you. Alright, because our brain doesn't like change. And since you are going to be doing something that your brain is not accustomed to doing, it will try with all its might to distract you, to make you feel as if you don't want it or anything like that. And this exact force that your brain uses, it is called resistance. So resistance has many shapes and forms. Watching porn is resistance, procrastination is resistance, scrolling on Instagram is resistance, listening to music when you should be working is a form of resistance. There are many forms of resistance, and that is why I created a list of document with 100 common forms of resistance that you might have, and it like covers mostly all. You might have some that might not be there, but it mostly covers all of it that you might face. So you can go and have a look at that. You can even download it, and that will basically make you aware to all the forms of resistance out there, because resistance, any form of resistance is an enemy, and you cannot destroy an enemy you're not aware of. So firstly, what you need to do is become aware of the form or shape that your enemy might take. Then what is going to happen is that whenever you are going to witness, whenever that resistance will manifest in any of its shape or form, you are going to be able to recognize it. And recognize it and say, oh, hello resistance, I can see you. And you can say, hey, F you, right? And you will basically, of course, it's not going to be that simple, but like eventually you will start recognizing it. And when you start to recognize it and are aware of it, it is a lot harder to still do it, because you are the one deciding it. Because generally whenever people procrastinate or do anything bad, it happens on autopilot. It feels as if it's not in their control. But whenever you make it aware, when you're going to make it aware, you are going to be in control. You will feel that I am the one deciding it. And no one wants to intentionally ruin their future. So the likelihood of you doing it is going to be very, very less. And with time, as you're going to get more and more aware, you are going to get better at it. Like you'll get better at recognizing it, ignoring it, and just doing with your work. And I'll be very honest, it might not work 100% all the times, but eventually with practice, it will work 90 to 95% of the time. Like I'm at this stage where it works for me 80 to 85% of the time. There are times when even I can see it and I'm like, nah, I'm just too tired to do it, and I still procrastinate. Or like let's say when I want to YouTube or something and I'm supposed to work. So especially when I'm in a bit of a vacation mode where I want to relax and stuff, it's so yeah, it will work. All right, with practice you can build it up to 90 to 95%, but even after that you can you might have some days where you just, despite knowing, you might do it. Right now, since you watched till here, here's a little thank you gift. The thing is, most people have already left this video. You are in the top 5% of the people who have clicked on this video, right? And that means 95% of the people have already left and not watching it. And that is why, and to help you achieve your goals and make a comeback in 2025, I've created an absolutely free newsletter where I share 3 to 5 weekly guides and more in-depth stuff like this, and also reply to any of the questions that you might be having. You can join it using the first link in the description. You literally have an unfair advantage because 95% of the people have already left, right? And we both know that unfair advantages are how you basically win. So make sure to use it. And with that being said, I'll see you soon. Lesson number 1. Nobody cares, nobody does. This is something that we in our early teens tend to think that, what will someone think about if you do something? But the reality is that most people, they don't really have the time to think about what you're doing, and they don't really care about what you're doing. In most cases, the paradox is that everyone thinks what other people think of them, but the thing is, no one's really thinking about you. Everyone's thinking about what other person is thinking about them, but no one is thinking about you. So it's a very weird paradox that goes, and if you just truly accept this, you'll be able to do anything without any form of problems, because most people, they are afraid of other people's judgments and being judged. And if you are able to overcome that fear, you won't have to think about what he or she is going to think about me if I do that. So you're more likely to try things, you're more likely to do things, you're more likely to fail at things, and the more you do these things, the more likely you are to become successful at any of it. Now the second lesson is a bit harsh, but all your school friends, at least 99% of them, you won't be even talking to them in the next 5 to 10 years. And you might have 1 or 2 very good friends, but 99.9% of them, you will not be talking in the next 5 years. Honestly, not even 5 years, in just a few years after you're done. You won't be in touch with them because everyone has their own things to do, everyone has their own interests, everyone's own life, and they change, they grow, and people evolve, and it's a bit sad. And eventually, initially you'll feel a bit bad as to why you're losing people, but that is just how it works. That is just how the process goes on. Third lesson that I learned was that you are on your own. Your parents might force you to do things, but the thing is, once you prove it to them that there is something that you truly want to do and that you can sustain yourself with that, basically you show them that you are getting somewhat success at what you're trying to do, whether that be making videos, whether that be making some form of business that you're trying to start, whatever it is. If you just show them even a bit of success, they will eventually believe in you and they'll let you do it, because in the end, parents, what they want is your best thing. And the thing is, they consider whatever they have done to be the best thing for the child, because that is technically in a way guaranteed to give them at least the life that they themselves have. And that is why it is a secure path. That is why most people, they force their children to do what they have done. They technically not force, but expect their children to do things. If they don't do, they get disappointed, because in their frame of view, what they have done is what got them there. And that is why if you don't do that, your parents basically think you're losing out on an opportunity to get the life that at least you could have had. But yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is just how parents think. But you need to be able to show it to them that whatever it is that you're trying to do, you can do it, you deserve to do it, and you can sustain yourself while doing it. And once you do that, just for once, just even bit of success, they will let you do it. That is what happens. The fourth lesson that I learned was anything that does not improve your health, wealth, or wisdom is simply a distraction. Whether that be people, whether that be an event, whether that be an activity, whatever it is, if it does not improve your health, wealth, or wisdom, it is simply a distraction. Like, this sounds a bit harsh, and it is a bit harsh, and honestly sometimes the distraction is alright, but in most cases you need to be able to recognize that it is a distraction, and you should not count the things which are distraction as something conducive to your work and success. All right, the fifth lesson that I learned is that you need to choose between instant gratification and gratification 10 years down the line, or 5-10 years down the line, or basically gratification later on. And I'll tell you something, that the latter one is a lot more satisfying and fulfilling than instant gratification, because instant gratification, as the word is self-explanatory, it is very instant. It just lasts for a few seconds. But if you are able to keep that instant gratification away, then the long-term gratification that you will eventually have is going to be, I don't know, I cannot even put it in words. It's going to be so much more fulfilling and satisfying to have that gratification, because you have worked for it, you have delayed your instant gratification, like for that you have had the patience to do it, and yeah, it's just very fulfilling feeling that you have. All right, now how do you do it is something that I'll make a video on eventually. How do you delay instant gratification, and how do you make it that you're able to delay your gratification and think in the long run. But till then, if you want to, because I keep posting a lot more in my newsletter and I keep doing more in-depth guides and stuff, you can join my newsletter, which is absolutely free, from the first link in the description. Now the sixth one is a bit might sound a bit cliche, but true love does not need physical intimacy. And why I included this is because most of the people in their teenage years, they think that if they are to be loved, or if they need to have a girlfriend, they need to get involved physically. But that is absolutely wrong. You don't need to do that. You should not do that, because if you do that, you are kind of ruining what you could have, because technically biological reproduction is the ultimate goal of us as species. And if you are to do that in your teenage years, technically the signal that goes to your brain is that you have accomplished your main purpose, the main grand vision for what you have been. That is why you will see that couples or teenagers who get physically engaged in their teenage years, their relationship doesn't really last very long, because technically their brain thinks that they have done the ultimate thing that needs to be done. So the motivation from both sides kind of just fades away. Yeah, there are exceptions, of course, to everything, but if you genuinely are in love with someone in your teens, which I'm sorry to say doesn't happen that often, because in most cases it's just infatuation that eventually fades away, and eventually you realize, because the thing is that in your teens you're just growing, you have still not matured, and you have still not become a person that is kind of like concrete. I mean, you don't go concrete, because if you were to go concrete, you would be rendered obsolete. But what I mean, like, you're still learning, you're still evolving, and your value systems are still being developed. And the thing is, people's value systems, they develop and they change. All right, they develop and they change, and the problem is that you can only be with people whose value system aligns with you. You cannot be with people who's, like, for example, if let's say your partner says you want to go to a mountain for a picnic and you say no, I want to go to a beach, then that's all right, because you both at least want to go outside for the picnic. But let's say if one person is saying I want to go to the mountain, another person is saying no, I want to celebrate picnic at our home, then that's a problem. That's a problem with the value system. So that is why, as in your teenage years, your value systems, it grows and it changes very fast until it kind of reaches a mature form, like somewhere in your 19 and 20s. I'm not saying it doesn't change after that, but the most things, they stay the same. And the person that you become, like morally, ethically, and like religion, culture, and that things wise is what I really mean, that kind of stays the same, right? And that is why it becomes a lot better to pick a partner after that, because you are not going to change in like 1 year or something and be like, oh, why did I pick this person? So this might sound a bit weird, but it happens, and it has happened with me, and it has happened with a lot of people that I have known. That is why Take my word for it, it's not really necessary to have a girlfriend or anything like that in your teens. Just work and focus on what needs to be done, and eventually the right person who you need to be with will come to you. Don't chase the butterfly. Plant a garden so that you can attract the butterfly. Now, the seventh lesson that I learned was that you don't need accountability partners or accountability groups or anything like that to really achieve anything that you really want to achieve. You don't need study groups to get good marks. You don't need gym groups to go to the gym. You don't need coding groups or coding cohorts to learn coding. You don't need any groups, cohorts, or anything like that. It's absolute bullshit. This is just forms of resistance that manifests itself. And this is something that demands a very detailed video on the topic, and I will be making that soon. But basically, in a nutshell, if I were to say, these groups, study groups, cohorts, and all these things, these are basically distractions. These are basically a shiny object. These are proxy work, because if you really want to do something, you'll just simply start doing it. Why do you need a accountability group to make you do that, right? Because the problem is, people don't like doing the work. People don't like studying. People don't like working. People don't like many things. Like, of course, I can understand what this for the thing, like studying. Of course, it's boring. I understand, but for something that it is that you want to do, for example, losing weight, like, and this is what we call the shiny object. Because if you could really do the real work, and if you were to sit down and do the real work, your brain will try to not do the work and try to distract you by saying that, oh, you need accountability group, or you need someone to keep you accountable. And the thing is, these are all forms of resistance, and they distract you from the real work because they are the shiny object. Because when you have a group, you can talk to them, and whenever you encounter discomfort or this like difficult feeling that you need to face, you can just simply go revert back to your group, right? And that is why it just works. It just, the form of resistance works because you never really get the work done. All you're doing is talking about the thing, you're planning and strategizing, but you are not really doing what needs to be done. And unless you do what needs to be done, it's not going to get done. It's only getting delayed. The next lesson that I learned, which is also kind of linked to the previous one, is that we don't procrastinate to avoid the work. We procrastinate to avoid the pain that comes with doing the work. Like, for example, right now I was avoiding recording this video. I was technically procrastinating recording this video. And the reason is because if I would record it, I would have to edit it, and I would then have to upload it. And then I also had a next video planned that I also had to record. But I'm a bit short on time because I've got some work in the morning, and it's 12:50 a.m. in the morning right now. And that is why my brain didn't want me to like do that much of work and just sleep. And that is why I was trying to make me sleep and make me feel that I'm tired, because if I would not record this video, then I would not have a video to edit and then not upload. And then the next video that I would have, since I would have no momentum, I would not do that as well. And so my brain was trying its level best, but sadly I recognize its move, and I was like, hey, I can see what you're trying to do. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm just going to record the video. And so I started. So yeah, there's that, I guess. And the thing is, it's going to be painful, the work that you're trying to do. It's very understandable, but just being aware that what you're trying to procrastinate is not really the work. It's not like, for example, recording this video. What is it about the recording the video that's painful? Is talking painful? No, talking is not painful at all. Is looking at my bullet points that I have in Obsidian here, is that painful? No, it's not painful. Is talking to the camera painful? No, it's not painful. Is editing the video painful? No, it's not painful. Like, literal physical pain. Do I get any like source of pain from? No, it's not. But my brain knows that doing these things, it creates a different action, something that's not very conducive to my current self. And so the identity of my current self is threatened, and that is why, to save the current self's identity, my brain tries to stop me from doing it, so that the current self can continue to exist. And this is basically called the concept of the undiscovered self by Carl Jung. You can Google about it. I'll be making a very dedicated video on this very, very soon, before 2024 ends, actually, because I want 2025 to be one of the best years for your life, so that you really have a very good understanding, and you can actually like do the things that needs to be done. But before that, as I already previously mentioned, you can join my newsletter. I keep talking about different things there, and this is one of them. So yeah, letting go of people is one of the most important skills that you'll need to learn. And yeah, it is really a skill. Now, I know you might be wondering, why did I call it a skill? Because, well, people is the only thing, or I think it sounds a bit weird. Like, basically what I mean is the the only thing that you don't control in your life is the people who come and go out of your life. That is something that you have no direct control over. Yet to some extent you can control by restricting the places that you visit and you don't visit. And but even that is kind of difficult in your teens, because well, you need to go to the school, you need to go to college or whatever, until you make your thing. If there is something that you really want to, like for example business something, you make that work, right? And even after that you don't really control who comes and goes in your life. So this is just one aspect that you don't really have a direct control over. And there will be many people, in fact 95% of the people, who might not be trustworthy, who might not be deserving of your attention, care, and whatever it is that a good relationship, a good healthy relationship demands. But and that is why you will eventually have to let go of them. Otherwise otherwise it's simply not going to help you. I don't have any other words to put it honestly, because I guess I read a quote somewhere that if you don't end the story is going to end you. Like it sounds very absurd, but if you don't end the story will eventually come to an end and you'll be the one dying. Because the problem is that people are selfish, because the problem is most people in your life, as harsh as this sounds, are only there till the point that they have some form of benefit from you, and once they lose that, they are going to walk away without giving a damn. And that is just how the world works. So it's nothing to be sad or afraid about, but you need to be aware of that. Now the next lesson I learned is from Bhagavad Gita, and it is somewhat linked to the previous one. That is that detachment from things and from people is very, very important, and it is something that you need to master. And I'm not saying that I have mastered it, but this is something that I have learned in my teenage years, and I am very, very grateful that I learned it. Because everything and anything that you own right now will eventually come to an end, will eventually disappear from your life. Whether that be people, whether that be things, whether that be your own body, everything is going to come to an end eventually. And that is why it becomes very, very important to become detached. And Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he says in Hindi, and I will also translate it to English for the people who don't understand Hindi. He says that, actually it's written in Sanskrit, it's not said in Hindi, but like it's said like this, that ना ही तो ये शरीर तुम्हारा है, ना ही तो तुम इस लोक के हो, जो तुम्हारा है वो सिर्फ तुम्हारे कर्म है। एंड तुम्हारा जो ये शरीर है वो 5 तत्वों से बना है, आग, जल, वायु, पृथ्वी और आकाश, और एक दिन इन्हीं 5 तत्वों में जाके मिल जाएगा। एंड फॉर द पीपल हु डिडंट अंडरस्टैंड हिंदी, बेसिकली our Bhagavad Gita, it says, and it's said by Lord Krishna actually, that the body is made up of these 5 elements: fire, air, water, sky and earth, and eventually it will dissolve into these 5 elements. And that is why all you own and all you can do is your own karma. And that is why, now I don't mean it like on a monkish level, that it's not really possible that you become completely like stoic, and I'm not saying that this is absolutely something like that, but it is a way of living, it's a philosophy. And that is why if you will see that most people who like the matrix, the thing that people talk about, is that people get so attached to stupid things like iPhone. Like, I'm not calling iPhone stupid, like I'm not calling that thing, I own a MacBook, the product in itself is good, but people get so attached to their phones that they forget what is the real work, what is the real meaning behind everything, what is the real purpose behind buying that phone. You cannot really get that attached with a piece of metal and glass. Like, what if you think about iPhone or MacBook or whatever it is just a piece of metal and glass. Alright, but people get so attached to those things and just forget about the real work. And if you're going to get so much attached to things that don't really matter, how are you going to focus on your work, and how are you going to focus on things that really matter? That is why detachment is very, very important. And yes, it is not possible. We are human beings, we have got emotions, we have got feelings, and it is not possible for us to completely get detached and not feel anything. I'm not saying that, but it is a way of living. Detachment is a way of living. These are philosophies of life which, if you abide by, I personally feel that your life, and personally my life, has been a lot better and a lot happier, a lot more content, and a lot fulfilling than what I have seen the life of my people of my own age. The next lesson that I learned is that don't confuse going to school with learning, because anything and almost everything that you learn in school is going to be rendered obsolete eventually, until and unless you decide to become a white collar professional. Now, I know you might have some arguments as to some things that you learn in school might actually be useful. Yeah, that might be correct to some extent, but the thing is that most of the things that you learn in school are useless, and like they don't really help you with anything. And the thing is that the education system, the schooling system that it was created, is not created with good intentions as people think. It was created with very dark purpose. And if you go and study the origins of schooling system, you will see that it was not meant to create educated professionals. It was meant to create factory workers, to be exact, factory workers for John D. Rockefeller. All right, and yeah, eventually you also have good things like doctors and everything. And I don't deny that that is a good aspect of it. But what if someone, like not everyone wants to become a doctor, not everyone wants to become an engineer, not everyone wants to. Everyone has their own thing, and that is why you will see that after the modern education system got popular, like this is a real data. Like you can just search for it on Google. The number of innovation and number of new discoveries that has been made in any field has just plummeted, because well, everyone was forced to become a doctor or engineer or whatever like that. All right, so the next lesson is also linked to previous, and that is read books. Read as many books as you can, because books are probably one of the best things that exist, and reading books is probably the best investment on time you can make. And it is the one short thing that is going to give you return. If not today, tomorrow, or next month, or next year, it will give you return eventually in your life. All right, and especially non-fiction. I don't mean fiction. Yeah, there are a few good fiction books, but I have not read I've not read even. I've just read one fiction book. It is called Time Travel, I guess, by H.G. Wells, and it was absolute garbage. I didn't like it. It was very boring. And that is why since then I have just hated fiction, and I don't really like reading fiction. Now, of course, there are some good books, like I have not really read them, but I would recommend start with non-fiction and read non-fiction. Read world conquerors, read people who are successful, read biographies, read biographies of Elon Musk, read biography of Steve Jobs, read biography of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, read Niccolo Machiavelli, read Socrates, read Marcus Aurelius, read all these people, study all these people, study their way of thinking, study their way of living, study their philosophies. Alright, because if you just see and learn from the very successful people who are world conquerors, who were the best when they were alive, alright, and you just learn from them and apply to what is it that you're doing, you are going to be successful. It is a no-brainer thing. Next lesson I learned is also related to books. Now, as I said, I personally think books are the best thing to exist and the best investment that you can possibly make. And that is why the next lesson that I learned also related to books is that don't buy books just because they're a bestseller or just because they are on some random website's top 5 or top 10 list. And that is because many of these like websites or pages or that you'll see, like it is a bit obvious right now, but when I was a bit young, I was naive and I didn't know that these things happen. I used to buy by seeing, sometimes I bought by just seeing the top 5 and everything, and there were very horrible books that are rated so-called bestsellers, which I didn't really like. For example, 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson. I found that book very, very boring. Like I didn't really understand a lot, and I didn't really enjoy that book as well. Now, like it is a good book. I think the problem was that my current stage does not align with the philosophy of that book. Like it is a book that you can eventually read to expand your knowledge and you learn like general sophistication. But it, like at this point of time, I think reading Elon Musk's biography or Steve Jobs' biography, which I had read by the way, I had already read Steve Jobs' biography, but reading, let's say, Warren Buffett's biography or Warren Buffett's letter to his shareholders or studying Marcus Aurelius would have made a lot more sense than reading 12 Rules of Life. Alright. And that is one lesson I learned, that don't just pick up books just because they're on some bestsellers list or anything like that. Alright. Read what you love until you love reading, and then just read and study world conquerors. Next lesson I learned is that keep a journal, track your life, measure it, and note it down, because there's nothing more fulfilling and satisfying than seeing yourself progress. Like seeing and coming back to what you were a few days ago, a few weeks ago, a few months ago, and eventually a few years ago, and seeing what you have become right now. No more feeling which is more satisfying than this, because you realize that even if you think you have not made any progress, you have made some progress, and that feeling of progress is the most satisfying thing. I can guarantee you that. Yeah, of course it will be a bit difficult, and you will eventually have to decide how much is it that you want to journal. Like for example, I eventually tried to do it one day every day, or like one time every day, but that didn't really work for me. So I came to like once in a week, like at the end of the week, and that is what I have stuck to. And I have been journaling since like I guess almost 2.5 to 3 years at this point. And when I go and look back at the earlier entries and see what I wrote and what I was and what I now, even me thinking like I'm nothing right now, I have come a long way. And seeing yourself progress and become a new person, which is a lot healthier and better version of what you were a few years back, there's nothing more fulfilling and satisfying than that. The next lesson that I learned is that study successful people. Don't study what Bill Gates does right now. Study what Bill Gates does before he became Bill Gates, or before, especially what made him Bill Gates. Don't study Jeff Bezos's morning routine that he wakes up at 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. right now. He takes Saturdays, Sundays off right now. No, go and study what he did before he became a multi-billion-dollar entrepreneur, because that is what made him that. If you're going to copy what they are doing right now, you are not a multi-billion-dollar entrepreneur. All right. Well, if you are, then that's very great. But, well, if you are not, then doing what Bill Gates does now will not make you that. But if you were to do what Bill Gates did before he became a multi-billion-dollar entrepreneur, you are very likely to become one. All right. Not by simply, if Bill Gates started Microsoft and just start. No, it's not like that. You just take the principles and you apply to what you're doing, because the rules, the strategies, the techniques might change, but the principles always stay the same. That is why they are principles. The next lesson is that don't take things personally, because, well, if you do that, it kind of comes and becomes attached to the point I mentioned about detachment and everything earlier, because doing so will only make you unhappy and upset, because you cannot really control what people tell you, you cannot control what people say about you or think about you. So the best thing to do is that don't take those things personally and don't take it literally, and just do your thing. The best lesson, or should I say one of the best lessons, is that if you really want something and if you really tried to get it and you still don't get it and you still haven't achieved it, then most likely you still don't deserve it and you need to try more, or simply the time that you currently are in is not the right time to have it. And this is something that I learned after a lot of not getting the things that I wanted, because I realized that eventually, a few months or maybe a few years later, that whatever it was that I was wanting was not good for me, and I did not deserve it at that point. And had it come at that point, I would have lost it all. And in some cases, even if I got those things later on, I realized, okay, it was not really good for me. And this is not really for anything. It could be a person, it could be a goal, it could be a thing, it could be a car, it could be a watch, it could be anything. And that is why you need to look at things objectively and need to be able to answer these questions as to, is it something that you really deserve it? Have you really worked for it? And is it something that, the time frame that you currently are in, that stage that you currently are in, is the right time stage to have that thing? Alright, these are very, very important questions that you must know. And with that being said, I'll see you soon.